Hello, guys. Welcome or welcome back to Dirty Martini. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're staying safe. Today's episode will be different from the ones we've had before. This week, I'm not going to tell you a funny story or give you advice for personal growth. This week, I will not be Dirty Martini. This week, I am Martina. It is going to be a short episode because I think there are more important stories and more important voices to be heard in the world right now. So I will keep it brief. Today, I want to talk about Palestine. I want to state the obvious first. This podcast is not the place for you to get extensive news and politics coverage. I have never claimed to occupy this role. Every week, I aim to entertain you here. However, it is difficult for me to do so. And honestly, I should not pretend that entertainment is something I can produce right now. Because the world is on fire. And it has been on fire for quite some time right now. I know we're all looking for a place to escape to when things get heavy, but we should not, and we must not, run away from this. Not anymore. I very much debated if I should do this episode, and it is not because I'm afraid to speak up, but because I am not a historian and I'm not a politician. However, I am human. And what is going on in Palestine is not a political or religious conflict. It is a genocide. So yes, I recognize that this podcast is not a news or politics source of information. However, I want this podcast to be a place in which kindness and humanity are nurtured. This week, the world finally decided to break its silence. And I feel like it is my human responsibility to speak up against the things I think are wrong and to speak up about the things that are right. If you know me, you know I have been very outward with my support for Palestine. And I'm not going to lie to you here. Prior to October 7th, 2023, I wasn't too familiar with the topic. It took me a couple weeks to properly familiarize myself with the context of the conflict. I felt very lost initially because I didn't know what to trust. I didn't know who to trust. I didn't know where to start to get information. And overall, I didn't know where to get information. I took some time to find trustworthy sources of information and to educate myself properly. The reason I'm saying this is because I don't want you to feel ashamed if you have not yet educated yourselves on the topic. Figuring out where to start is daunting because the influx of information, it is enormous and it is constant. But don't let that overwhelming feeling prevent you from getting educated. Please, get educated. This is the first step, and it is arguably the most fundamental step. Some say that the conflict started on October 7th, 2023. Others claim that it started 75 years ago. And thirds say it is something which is rooted in millennia back from today. Now, no matter if it started 2,000 years ago, last year, yesterday, or today, this needs to stop immediately. Palestinians are held hostage. Palestinians have nowhere to go. Palestinians are tortured. Tens of thousands of innocent Palestinian civilians are being killed. Actually, tens of thousands of innocent Palestinian civilians are being massacred. An ethnic cleansing is happening in the world, and we cannot and we must not let it be. I still cannot wrap my head around the fact that this type of conflicts still happen in the 21st century. Have we not learned anything from history? Have we not learned anything from each other? And more importantly, have we no humanity left in ourselves? But there are more urgent things to do, more urgent things to cater to, beyond sitting around and questioning my faith in humanity. Whether we learned anything from history or not, I don't know. The important thing is that this is the reality we live in. This is the reality Palestinians live in. This is the world we have created, and we need to change it radically and immediately. It absolutely breaks me to see all the hurt and all the horror that is happening. But apart from empathy and heaviness, I feel anger. I am angry. I am angry that the bombing of Rafah on the 26th of May 2024 had to happen for the Free Palestine movement to finally gain the momentum it deserved months and years prior to this. Where was all the attention months ago? Why did this have to happen for people to start actually caring? Why did it have to get to this point for people to recognize the genocide that is happening? How many more innocent children, women, and men have to die for the world finally to wake up and take action? We failed them. We failed them as politics, we failed them as society, and we failed them as people. Those lives that were lost can never be brought back. The emotional, physical, and mental traumas that were caused cannot be reversed. The trust cannot be regained. The massacres cannot be taken back. And while what has already been damaged cannot be repaired, there still is something to do. We can prevent further damage. We can get educated. We can speak up. We can take action. We can and we must choose to side with humanity. This is not about politics anymore. This is not about religion anymore. Wars and genocides are not solely political nor religious. Further damage can be prevented. Fire can and fire must be ceased. It is not all over. There still is hope left. There is another thing which quite significantly angers me. It drives me mad, and honestly, it also makes me quite sad at the same time to see people opting out of forming an opinion, opting out of educating themselves, because it is too heavy to see this happening. To those people, I have a few things to say. I want you to recognize your privilege, and I want you to use it. I want you to recognize that if you're living in a war-free zone, you're lucky. You're blessed. Freedom and peace, even though they must be our birthright, can apparently be taken away quite easily. Do not take your freedom for granted. I invite you to reflect on how privileged and lucky you are to witness this genocide from a distance, to witness this through a screen, and to have the opportunity not to engage, to have the opportunity to make it all disappear from your immediate life with just the pressing of a turn off button. Another thing, let's all for a second think about how privileged and lucky we are that the images and stories we see online come with a trigger warning, and we can choose to not consume them if we think they would be too heavy on us. What about the people from those images and stories? They don't get a trigger warning. So, all that to say that I invite you to use your privileges. Use your privileges to free others. Don't let your privileges manifest into ignorance. Use your privileges to privilege others, not to deprive them of their rights. We always think that such dystopian narratives happen only in fictional movies. Well, life imitates art, I guess. But while the books have already been written and the movies have already been filmed, life and war are still currently happening. Genocide is currently happening. And the narrative can, the narrative should, and the narrative must be changed. We cannot let all those deaths be in vain. Yes, we cannot rectify what has already been done, but we can make those innocent people immortal by working towards a better future. But to do that, we need to all act collectively as a community. Palestinians need all the support they can get. I fully understand that people with different political, religious, and moral views exist. And I am not asking you to throw away your belief system, but I am asking you to side with humanity on this one. Just think for a second. What if those were your homes that were being burned to the ground? What if the people who are out there suffering were your family and your friends? What if it was you? What if everything and everyone you knew was destroyed in a way as if they never existed? What if all there was left to do for you is pray that you'll live to see another day? And what if all of this was happening, but the rest of the world decided to turn a blind eye because it made them feel uncomfortable? Uncomfortable for their political and market ideologies. Aren't there more important things than money and power? I want you to know that it is never too late to quote-unquote switch sides. If you have stayed neutral to the conflict, however, I fully believe that a neutral side does not exist. If you're staying silent, then you're complicit with this genocide. So if you have sided with the oppressor up until now, it is okay to say, this is too far. I do not agree with this. I do not want you to feel ashamed for changing your opinion. What would be more shameful, what would be such a pity, is supporting genocide because you feel like you have to due to prior beliefs and attitudes. I would rather see more people change their opinion and express their support for Palestine than see people support genocide simply because they feel pigeonholed by their decisions from the get-go about who they will side with in the conflict, and because they feel too ashamed to admit that they were wrong. In this process, in these times, I just want you to reflect on a few things. Who needs politics if it is not working in the interest of people? Who needs religion if man takes away all faith? Who needs land if it is soaked with the blood of innocent lives? Lastly, I understand that not everyone can afford to make donations, but if you can, please do your research and find charities or find directly people to support. If there are protests you can join, please, by all means, do so. But of course, take into consideration your own safety. But if you cannot afford to make any monetary or other donations, if you cannot join a protest for one reason or another, then just get educated and speak up. Spread the word. Start conversations. Getting educated and talking about this genocide is the least we can do for Palestinians. Share information online. I don't care if it doesn't fit your profile's aesthetic. There are more important things than color coding our posts and stories. There are lives on the line. Innocent lives. So speak up. Educate others. Talk with the people around you. Talk with your friends. Talk with your families. Don't be afraid to talk about this conflict. Don't be afraid to side with humanity. And please, don't be afraid to be on the right side of history. Oppression must be eradicated. With that being said, all eyes on Rafah. Thank you for listening, guys. Stay safe, stay educated, and stay human. Goodbye.